All right, here's a question. Could the rise of artificial intelligence lead to job losses for everyday Americans trying to make ends meet? Our next guest, who is the CEO of one of the most powerful AI companies in the world, says we are heading for a catastrophic employment crisis that no one is talking about. Well, we are going to talk about it with Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of Anthropic. He joins me now. Dario, thank you so much for joining us. You have a critical message for us this morning. So how many job losses are we talking about here, and who is at risk?
So just to back up a bit, I've been working on AI for 10 years, and probably the thing I've noticed most about it is how fast it's making progress. 2 years ago, it was at the level of a smart high school student. Now it's probably at the level of a smart college student and reaching beyond that. And on one hand, I think there's a number of very positive things that are going to happen. I used to be a biologist. I think AI has exactly the kind of skills that are needed to cure important diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, to provide cheaper energy, many positive things. But exactly those same kind of skills, things like summarizing a document, brainstorming, putting together a financial report, makes me worry a lot that entry-level jobs in areas like finance, consulting, tech, many other areas like that, entry-level white-collar work, I worry that those things are going to be first augmented, but before long replaced by AI systems, and that we may indeed. It's hard to predict the future, but we may indeed have a serious employment crisis on our hands as the pipeline for these early stage white collar work starts to contract and dry up.
So let me stop right there for a second. Let me interrupt. Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Talk Williams, host and creator of Hip Hop 50th, and this Sunday morning, June the 1st, it's all about AI. That's right, guys. I've been toying with this the last couple of weeks, and I did a couple of lives, and I will be doing more of them moving forward. But one of the things of concern that I'm noticing, and just this is subjective, this is just for me talking to my peer group, let's say the 55 to 70 range, okay? And this is just me experiencing certain things and understanding or thinking I'm understanding other things. But what I'm noticing is people think that this AI thing is so mysterious and so far away and untouchable. It's so much mystique to it. It's beyond the matrix. It's simply not true. When you think about the economics that are involved with AI, when you think about ChatGPT, when you think about things like Claude or Opus, you think about genomics, you think about XAI, you think about Einstein, Firefly, and all of these other AI engines and different models that are around, whether it's reflexive, whether it is, what is the other one? The databases. If you think about the databases behind the scene, traditional databases being tables with relationships. That's what you do. You build relationships with the tables so that the work works together. But vector databases are what the AI is about. So anything from the lowest level technology, which would be something like a call center, which is what we're going to be talking about here in a second, all the way up to the AI or the engineering, the developer, the guy behind the scene, the coder, mid-level, white collar, all of it's going to be affected. But here's what I'll say to you guys. If you think it has nothing to do with you, it's a mistake. If you do any type of customer support, in fact, let me use a term I use sometime every now and then, because if I talk to somebody under 40, they want to know what the hell I'm talking about. And if the term that I'm about to use has been deprecated and I'm just trying to bring it back in, but I'm not. There's something called a litmus test. Okay, a litmus test was designed so it can make it easy for somebody to tell if something is happening or not by way of touching something and a color change or a temperature change or something like that. But don't even worry about it. The litmus test for whether your job might be in the target, in the scope, in the range, in the crosshairs of AI, anywhere from a year from now to the next 3 to 5 years, here's one way you can test it. If you pride yourself on being able to not deal with human beings, not shake a customer's hand, not being physically in front of a client. And you can work at Starbucks, and you do work at the office, but you could work at a plane. You can work on a train. If you have the argument that makes sense to all of your peers and all of your coworkers and staff that I don't even see why they having me come in when everything I do here, I can do anywhere because I don't actually engage directly face-to-face with human beings, AI is coming for that position. AI will make no distinction about your physical presence not being needed from where you are, whether it be the comfort of your home, Starbucks, Panera Bread, my top three, home, Starbucks, Panera Bread, whether it be on a yacht, whether it be on a train, another state, another country, it's coming for that position. Now, let's start with something we all can understand. Hey, I'm trying to get a job. I might not have a college degree. I might not have a strong technical background, but I've used Gmail and I've had an iPhone or Android, so I know something about email. I understand SMS messaging or texting. I know what that is, so I'm familiar enough with the technology in my hand and the things that I've done on my laptop or my computer where I could probably apply for what? Some low-level, entry-level customer service job, call center representative, company. I'm trying to think of these long titles they give this position. But the point of it is, traditionally, somebody's going to call, you're going to answer the phone, and you're going to give them some information that you've been authorized through the company to give them. 100 years ago, it was really crude. They trying to reach you, and your damn phone busy, and there was no multiple calls, no switchboard. But now in 2025, you're probably sitting somewhere, coming in the office maybe once or twice a week, maybe 5 days a week, or never. And you're on a laptop that the company set up for you. You're using a phone or you're using some type of soft phone where it appears you can take calls right on your laptop, and you're providing first-level customer service. Don't think I'm talking about at IBM, Microsoft, or even OpenAI. No, I'm talking about for any company, Office Depot, Staples, Best Buy, any company. It's the technology being used for the customer service reps. I'm just throwing that out there. That there is going away. They're getting wiped out. You're going to get ran over. Make no mistake about that, because there's no need for you. There will be no distinction in AI performing that function because you can physically sit at home or in the office or somewhere else. That's gone. But here's the advantage that those customer service reps have. Here's something that they can do to mitigate the circumstance. And that's why I asked the question in the title of this live, do you use AI at work? Does your employer encourage it? Do they offer training? Do they offer some type of awareness? Does it come up in conversations? I don't mean from the CEO. I don't mean from the board of directors. I mean from your direct report. Because if it comes up, at least in conversations by way of HR at a team meeting or some discussion, that means that it's coming from the top and it's being pushed down and it's being encouraged by your work environment, by your employer, that you want to become aware. I'll say this to you. I'm going to say this to you, and I'll say it in error. Being aware will make a big difference, and I'll explain why. But let me go back here where they're talking about these jobs. And we're going to get into the difference between a call center agent, a call center representative, a first-level support person versus AI agent versus agentic AI. Let's get into that. So right here, I'm going to jump up and let's talk about it.
AI more agentic capabilities,
An AI agent.
Agents.
agentic workflows.
Agents.
Agents.
Agent.
Agentic.
Agentic.
All right, most explanations of AI agents is either too technical or too basic. This video is meant for people like myself. You have zero technical background, but you use AI tools regularly and you want to learn just enough about AI agents to see how it affects you. In this video, we'll follow a simple 1, 2, 3 learning path by building on concepts you already understand, like ChatGPT, and then moving on to AI workflows, and then finally AI agents. All the while using examples you will actually encounter in real life. And believe me when I tell you, those intimidating terms you see.
Now check this out. As basic and as mundane this guy's making a concerted effort to sound, he's failing at it probably for many people who do the first level call center customer service rep entry job because he's so technical. It sounds like if you're not technical beyond that first level, beyond them jobs I just identified as being ran over by a tractor trailer standing in the middle of the intersection, the tractor trailer being AI, agentic agents, the thing being ran over, your position. We got to move away from him. We'll come back to him. Even though, if I blow this screen up right here, I do enjoy this idea of what is retrieval augmented, what did it say? What is retrieval augmented in the yellow? What is retrieval augmented generation? I do like, I can act like this guy about this. Just give me 30 seconds to massage my pride and my ego. So if you remember back in 2022 and 2023, ChatGPT as we know it, it could not tell you what time it was on the very day that you was using it. Think about what I'm saying. ChatGPT, that large language model from OpenOrg, which was the onset of the public being able to experience and hands-on, it becoming tangible and empirical to regular people like me and you. ChatGPT couldn't even tell you what time it was that day. ChatGPT couldn't tell you how many additional moons were discovered around certain planets because ChatGPT was not scraping the internet. ChatGPT, when it was released in 2022, November, October, September, late part of November 2022, it couldn't do it because even though ChatGPT was a LLM, a large language model, it was functioning and it was being trained in a vacuum, in a black box. They just took a whole heap of information and they put that inside of something, and whatever that technology was, neural networks, deep learning, machine learning, algorithms, AI, however the hierarchy goes, it was only being trained what it was fed inside of that black box. That's why when you asked it certain questions and it was outside of the scope of that range of the training, it couldn't go back but so far, and it couldn't go beyond into the future or into the now or even that day or that month. And people were saying, well, how smart is this thing if it couldn't tell me the weather? How smart? Here's the thing, getting back to what is retrieval augmented generation, which this guy brought up, which I'm going to jump into back into the call center part in a minute. Because retrieval augmented generation, AKA RAG, as well as CAG, and we'll get to that later on, is very important. And here's why. When we were prompting ChatGPT in late 2022, the reason why it couldn't, because again, it's just trained on the data dump inside of the black box. Then they developed RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. And conceptually, this is how this works. Now when you prompt ChatGPT, what ChatGPT does It goes to some other data store or some other data source, which might be the internet, which might be through some APIs, which might be a content store, anything. And so along with my prompt or your prompt, it goes and grabs that information, or if you want to say it, if we was at Starbucks, it just scrapes the damn internet or whatever source is available, not limited to the internet. That's why I said content store, data source, whatever, because it might be going to one of the lakes. It might be going via Fabric to any number of those things. It might be going through something in Snowflake, any number of repositories, including the internet. But just for simplicity, it scrapes the internet, and along with my prompt and the information it pulls back from scraping the internet today in real time or close to it, then it goes over to the LLM, and now it indexes what it found out there through the Retrieval Augmented generation, along with the LLM, along with my prompt, and then it comes back with the response. Now, guess what? It can tell you what time it is. Now, the difference between some period of time where it was saying it was 77 moons or 78 moons around the planet Saturn or Jupiter, and it was definitely an error because maybe at the time that data dump was done with the LLM in that black box for ChatGPT, it couldn't get an update because it wasn't reaching out. It was in a vacuum. Now with RAG, Retrieval Augmented meaning what? Improve, make better. There's a difference between augmentation and replacement, or augmentation and displacement when it comes to your job, when it comes to your position, okay? It's like weighing the difference between quiet quitting and quiet cutting. One for the employee, the other two is what the employer uses. But anyway, getting back to this, that's why I can do that. Now, if you ask how many moons are around Saturn, even though in the black box, it might say 76, now that it will do the Retrieval Augmented generation, it'll go out and scrape the internet or other content stores or data sources, and it'll come back and say, with your prompt, originally it was 76 moons. Last year, 30 more were discovered. The year before that, 20 more were discovered. Whatever, it's 144 moons now, and there might be some more found in the future. I'm just giving you a quick example of why at one time you was just stuck with the limitation of the date range without any updates to the information with ChatGPT. But with RAG, you have retrieval, go get something, augment, improve the information or the response. That's what augment does. And generate that. Bring it in with that prompt, go over to the LLM, make sense of all of it together, index it, and give it back to the requester. There we go. But anyway, that was 10 minutes, which was supposed to be 30 seconds of me trying to sound like I knew what I was talking about. But entry-level jobs, let's listen.
Artificial intelligence is advancing at breakneck speed, and the CEO of an AI firm just warned businesses and politicians that they shouldn't sugarcoat the impact that this is going to have on the workforce. He predicts a bloodbath in the job market that could wipe out half of entry-level white-collar jobs in the next 1 to 5 years. If this is the price of progress, what are people supposed to do? That is the question that's being asked.
Start with learning how to use AI, because I think that your job's not necessarily gonna be taken by AI, but by someone who knows how to use it. But I do think that some of the smartest people in the tech industry have been warning us of how advanced this is going and how rapidly it's happening.
I don't think anybody expected it to just get dumped on us
as quickly as it has. And I don't expect that our leaders are gonna do anything. So we have to be prepared for this next generation economy.
And this is, you remember when there were all those hearings in Congress about social media? And clearly, those old white guys had no idea, the senators and the Congress people, what they were talking about and and how to ask. And I think this is another instance where the developments in technology just far outpace the understanding of Congress that's supposed to be regulating. One of the things that concerns me is how much AI can be manipulated and shaped into what you want it to be. Just a few weeks ago, Elon Musk's AI chat.
Oh, I forgot
app,
already.
The Grok was manipulated. So anytime you asked it anything, it would talk to you about white genocide of Afrikaners in South Africa. So like you could say, give me a recipe for your favorite carnitas taco. And it would say, white Afrikaners are being victimized by genocide in South Africa. Give me your favorite recipe for a fish taco.
They did stop that. They did put that. They did stop that because too many people said this is. We all know this is not true.
Well, the app was actually telling. The app was actually
people,
saying, as I've been instructed by my
boss to tell you this, but it ain't true.
Well, and AI is more of a threat than the declining birth rate. We talked about the birth rate here a while ago, and everyone was like, if people don't have babies, how are we going to have a workforce? And I had said, long before that's a problem, AI will be our issue. And that's why I would hope that Congress would heed this warning from these tech executives, because like you mentioned, Anna, how far behind they are in everything. We need to be working on universal basic income. Corporations paying more in taxes, which was always the quick, easy answer, but they haven't done it yet. Educating yourself on AI, as Alyssa said, because you can be using it now and you don't want to fall behind on that. And also, they're saying that younger people need to really develop their soft skills. We talk about technology advancement, the pandemic. People need to remember how to have interpersonal skills, because those are things in the workplace that will not be replaced
How about
necessarily.
the fact that we still have to build a house, we still have to run the electricity, we still have to do the plumbing? These are jobs
But those
that
are considered
ChatGPT is not going to be able to do.
Those are the jobs that are going to be just that. You know, a lot of these jobs.
So this is talking about white-collar jobs, more jobs like ours,
These
as
are not
opposed
white.
to.
I'm saying go for more blue-collar.
No,
jobs.
not our jobs, because
Well,
you
you
can't really.
They can't replace us.
Well, they can replace us.
Not this hair color, anyway.
You know, but the truth of the matter is, this started ages ago when you saw people become replaced by machinery that were building cars in Detroit. That's the beginning.
Assembly lines.
So assembly lines and all of these different things. Now they're saying, you know, they can do an algorithm faster than the folks on Wall Street can.
A new piece that just posted on Axios.com moments ago, taking a critical look at the future of artificial intelligence. It's a pretty incredible piece. It's entitled Behind the Curtain, a white-collar bloodbath. That could be the result of AI.
Well, yeah, and you know, Jim, people that run AI companies don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend it's not going to happen. Silicon Valley wants to pretend it's not going to happen. Wall Street doesn't really want to talk about it. But the fact is, as you report, just like the technological revolution, the IT revolution gutted blue-collar workers throughout the 90s and beyond, you're now talking about a bloodbath for white-collar workers because of AI. And from what you've seen and what you're reporting on, it is going to be a bloodbath for workers.
I mean, that is certainly the warning of Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of Anthropic. And just for your viewers, Anthropic is one of the top creators of this AI, these large language models in the world. So he has better visibility than probably all but 2 or 3 people in the world into the power of this technology. He'd been telling us in private for a while that this bloodbath could be coming, but that lawmakers don't want to talk about it. The federal government doesn't want to talk about it. AI companies don't want to spook people. We finally convinced him.
In just 1 second, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Not that I know anything more than these people, right? But here's the thing. When they say that lawmakers don't want to talk about it, when they say politicians don't want to talk about it, does your CEO want to talk about it? Is there some transparency? And that's why I named the title of this live. Do you use AI at work? Does your employer encourage it? Do they offer training? Do they at least identify use cases in your environment where AI might be the right tool, the right thing to leverage to perform particular tasks, to streamline and automate certain reoccurring things, right? Is that what's going on? If you don't have a sense of that is what's going on, and your job or your function requires you to interact with computer systems and some type of technology, then you either may want to inquire or just be proactive and get in front of the thing that's coming. Because that quiet storm as if nothing is happening might be because your company, your employers have made a decision somewhere that there's no sense in even letting you know that an asteroid is about to hit, because we're not going to let you reskill, upskill, or whatever, level up so that you can play any significant role in that revolution, in that thing that's going to change. Now, of course, it's going to change for the better in terms of the company. It's probably going to produce more. It's probably going to allow it to be online more. It's going to streamline services and ultimately deliver the information, the service, or the product to the client, to the customer, to the constituent, while at the same time allowing for a better flow and allowing the company or the system to be tweaked out and adjusted on the fly without really any concern about your feelings, DEI. Today I'm a bird and yesterday I was a goat, but now I want you to treat me like a horse. All that's out the window. All that's out the window. All that, my kid's not feeling well, the benefits. I'm suing you, the lawyers. Gone. Bathroom breaks. Gone. So, like I said, we're talking about proficiency, efficiency, but at the same time, if you think about morality, if you think about human beings, if you think about how do you mitigate this thing as an individual, not for your company, but as you, the individual, you can do things to get in front of, especially if you know that that's the type of work that you do and that you desire to do and you want to continue doing. I'm not just talking about call center. I'm using call center agents. I'm using customer service or that first level of support as just that thing that we can get into anytime we want, where we don't want to be working outside. We want to air condition, bright lights. We want to be on a computer sitting on our ass and just clicking some buttons, potentially in the office, at Panera Bread, at Starbucks. This guy's the CEO of Axios. If you don't know what Axios is, that's another video, but just think about this. Everything that they do at Axios, digital publications, editorial, printing out stories, reporting, testing, technology, everything. And this is the CEO warning people, informing them to get involved. Even his own staff, you're going to hear it. He says that he's telling his staff that you're committing career suicide if you don't spend at least 10% of your workday involving yourself, playing with, engaging, and becoming more aware about different AI models and tools and resources. But let me shut up. I'm going to try hard.
To go on the record, and his point is, like, listen, just play with this technology, not just casually. Like, once you really dive into it, you realize it can do the work already of researchers, of analysts, of a whole host of entry-level white-collar jobs. And he put it in the starkest of terms. He said, like, based on their early analysis, over a 5-year period, it could wipe out half of white-collar entry-level jobs. Unemployment could spike to 10 to 20% in the next 5 years. And this is a guy who's building the technology, who's boasting about the power of it. And when we push him on, then if you're building it, like, how do you morally kind of think about it in your own mind? And he said, I have an obligation to build the technology. I also have an obligation to get the federal government, to get lawmakers, to get other AI companies to figure out how do we prepare the American worker and how do we protect the American worker. And so, you know, as someone who runs a company, I run Axios as a CEO, I spend an inordinate amount of time studying AI and how it's going to play out just in my space of media. And I can guarantee you in the next 5 years, it's going to radically transform the makeup of our company. Well, every single company in the world is doing this. Every CEO is sitting there saying, should I fill this role? Should I open this role? Will a machine do this better than man in the next couple of years? When you see data out about the difficulty of college grads finding new jobs, this is one of the early telltale signs that this could be coming. And so I think the column is very much worth a read. I wish lawmakers spent more time thinking about this rather than some of the small ball things that they debate day to day.
It's been fascinating to see many of the people who are developing AI technology, Jim, offering warnings about what's coming because of it. And in your interview, he effectively says, you cannot stop this train. It's coming down the tracks. This is happening. I think the way he puts it in your interview, though, is you can steer it a little bit. What does that look like? What does steering it look like?
In his mind, I think it's sounding the alarm. It's like, listen, we got to have a national debate that this isn't 10 years from now. It could be 6 months from now. It could be 12 months from now. Then there has to be a debate about, okay, how do you make sure that workers are prepared to use artificial intelligence to augment their work, not displace their work? That's what we've been doing at Axios. We give everybody access to the technology. We have a deal with OpenAI. We make sure that every single unit, no matter what your job is already playing with this to figure out how are you going to augment your work so you don't get displaced by it. Hell, I told my own staff, you're committing career suicide if you're not spending 10% of your day experimenting with the technology. And I don't think most people are. I think people are like, whoa, this is too science fiction, or, it's a really neat search engine. They're not actually looking at the capabilities. They don't have the time. They have real lives. But I think Dario's point was they might not wake up until it's way too late. And if lawmakers are way too late to it, you could have real issues. You could have unemployment, as he said, 10 to 20% if he's right, which would then lead to obvious political unrest. We have Steve Bannon on the record in there saying he thinks the exact same thing is going to play out. He said Trump's not talking about it, but he thinks this will be maybe the biggest topic of the 2028 presidential election.
I mean, you have Steve Bannon on the right. You have other people on the left very concerned about this. And Jim, you underlined a point that I've actually told my kids, which is if you're going into an interview, if you're going into anything where you are going to be talking and you want to understand a topic, it's just foolish not to go on to a search engine app, an AI search engine app, and dig in deep to try to understand a company that you're talking to or an issue that you're talking about better. It is Elizabeth, it is the future. The future is now. And a lot of the spaces that we work in 10 years from now are going to look completely different because of AI. And white-collar workers across the country, as Jim said, are going to be deeply impacted.
Well, so, Jim, tell me, how exactly will this affect, like, our business? So will we still have copy editors, reporters, bosses? What do you say?
For journalism, I don't think that the machines are going to do the journalism per se. But if you play with it at all, you realize it's going to be a really good copy editor. It's going to be a really good marketer. It's going to be really good at doing research. It's going to be really good at doing marketing. It's going to be really good at taking any piece and maybe creating 8 different variations to send it out to all the other platforms. And that's what I would encourage people to do is play with it, assuming that the hallucinations and the errors go away. Because there are times where it is truly magical. And if that were to happen with a human level efficacy, anybody running a company, I'm telling you, as someone who runs a company, they're always going to choose automation because they're going to believe that over time it's going to make their company more profitable and it's going to create more jobs. And that might be true, and that often is true with technology, that in the long arc, it creates more jobs. What's different here is this is a technology that could hit hard in the next 6 to 18 months. And it's going to hit every single role potentially simultaneously. And something that fast with that kind of breadth could have a much bigger effect than almost any of the topics that they're debating on Capitol Hill. And when you talk to members of Congress, it's alarming how little they know about this topic and how little and how infrequently they talk to their constituents about it. You're doing a disservice to the country if you're not starting to think through what does the world look like in 18 months to 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you have 40 or 50 people in your company with AI. Most white-collar companies, you could hire 4 or 5 people that know the right prompts to ask the right prompts of AI, and it would cover so much of that work. And you are right. This is a 5-alarm fire, and Congress is sleeping. Co-founder and CEO.
All right, here's a question. Could the rise of artificial intelligence lead to job losses for everyday Americans trying to make ends meet? Our next guest, who is the CEO of one of the most powerful AI companies in the world, says we are heading for a catastrophic employment crisis that no one is talking about. Well, we are going to talk about it with Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of Anthropic.
So, yeah, let me jump in there real quick. and I apologize for jumping in right before Dario Amodei speaks. Now, in case you don't know Anthropic, Anthropic is also one of these large language model, AI, chatbot companies, what have you, right? And OpenAI is ChatGPT. That's OpenAI. I know people got a little confused. They think Microsoft owns or they part owner of Open. No, they have a big investment, okay? They probably have all types of stocks, options, and all of this stuff. They don't own OpenAI. OpenAI is Sam Altman. That's that crew, okay? Microsoft is Microsoft. Their AI engine is Copilot. That's what that is. It's Copilot. Mark Benioff is Salesforce, the #1 CRM, customer relations management system in the world. Their AI engine is Einstein. And then you have Adobe, the Photoshops and the Adobe Premiere and Adobe PDF and all of that stuff. Their AI engine is Firefly. So you have Adobe Firefly, Salesforce, Einstein, Microsoft Copilot, OpenAI has the ChatGPT. They have Sora. They also have Whimsical, and they have a whole host of other products and services that they have going on. Okay. Now, let me say this. This gentleman here, they have something called Claude. They also have something called Opus that just came out. Not to confuse Opus with Opus Clip. Opus Clip is something that I use. You can shoot a video. You guys probably familiar with it more than me. You can take a video that you shoot and you want to break it up and you want to give summaries and the value of what was said and you want a transcript and you can do it in 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minute up to 3 minute clips at a time. It's a really quick way to get a nice format, whether it's 9:16 or 16:9, or the opposite way, the vertical format for the different social media platforms. It's a really quick way of AI doing that for you and putting you in a position to maybe use your social media scheduler to get things out, okay? That's not that Opus that Dario Amodei is. But here's the thing. These are like, if you live long enough, if you are even aware of nuclear bombs, the nuclear bomb, 100 years ago in the 40s, the 30s or whatever, probably in 45, somewhere around there, the United States used 2 or 3 nuclear bombs, warheads, and they bombed Japan. And they killed over 25,000 people in like 2 or 3 days. Like it was nothing. It's whatever. Even those scientists, Enrique Fermi, John Oppenheimer, and the other core group of scientists that was working on that project, that had worked on that project and developed that bomb, they even went in front of the Congressional Committee. They went in front of the Senate. They start pressing the lawmakers, the politicians, to balance this thing out. Sure, we were successful in creating this. Sure, it did what we said in the time of war. It ended the war. It pretty much ended that war. But what these CEOs and what these founders of these AI companies and these chat GPTs and all of this other stuff, what they're getting at is, as great as this is, we need some rules. We need to mitigate this. We need to put some controls on this, because if you leave it to us, the tech people, we're going to run you over at a level you won't even understand what's happening. You will have to accept it, digest it, and fix the rules and the playing field around what we're doing, because your pride and your ego won't allow you to say, we don't know what the hell's going on, what they're doing or why they're doing it. We just have to make it seem like we're with it. But I'll shut up. I will say this, though, because Anthropic, which is his company, they did see that chatbot thing. They got away from that. They're really doing some other things to produce content, because they're like, okay, ChatGPT, OpenAI's ChatGPT is the shiznick on that, but this Anthropic is still dope.
Joins me now. Dario, thank you so much for joining us. You have a critical message for us this morning. So how many job losses are we talking about here, and who is at risk?
So just to back up a bit, I've been working on AI for 10 years, and probably the thing I've noticed most about it is how fast it's making progress. 2 years ago, it was at the level of a smart high school student. Now it's probably at the level of a smart college student and reaching beyond that. And on one hand, I think there's a number of very positive things that are going to happen. I used to be a biologist. I think AI has exactly the kind of skills that are needed to cure important diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, to provide cheaper energy, many positive things. But exactly those same kind of skills, things like summarizing a document, brainstorming, putting together a financial report, makes me worry a lot that entry-level jobs in areas like finance, consulting, tech, many other areas like that, entry-level white-collar work, I worry that those things are going to be first augmented, but before long replaced by AI systems, and that we may indeed. It's hard to predict the future, but we may indeed have a serious employment crisis on our hands as the pipeline for these early stage white collar work starts to contract and dry up.
What's the timeline here?
Yes, so it's very hard to predict these things given how fast AI is making progress. But I would not be surprised if somewhere between 1 and 5 years we started to see big effects here. I've heard a number of people talk about this in private. AI CEOs talk about this in private. CEOs of other companies talk about this in private. And I really felt that the message that this is happening hasn't been getting out to ordinary people, hasn't been getting out to our legislators, our Congress people either. And so I felt I needed to speak up on the record. I do think that this is something we can prevent this, but we need to act now. I don't think we can stop the AI bus. There are 6 or 7 companies just in the U.S. working in this area. I just run one of them. Even if our company stopped doing what it was doing today, all the other companies would continue. Even if all 6 companies started, then China would beat us. I think that's a big and important threat. So we can't stop the bus, but I do think we may have an opportunity to steer it. And I think we need to get Congress people, legislators, the public to think about this now. One of the first steps we're taking is just measuring the effects. Anthropic has put out something that we call our economic index. And using the economic index, we try and track the rate at which these things are happening. At some point we have to go beyond measuring this to actually taking action, to trying to build our AI systems in a way that augments rather than replaces. But that won't be a long-term solution either. We need to think about what the government is going to do. And there's a wide range of actions that the government could take. And it's not my place to decide which of those are correct. But I think the first step is people need to think about this and start taking it very seriously.
Yeah, and you're talking about AI possibly wiping out all entry-level white-collar jobs and spiking unemployment to 10 to 20%. So dive into the mitigation of this a little bit more. How could we mitigate the worst possible scenario here?
Yeah, so it's hard to know the exact numbers. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. But what I will say is I think what AI can do, there have been these technological changes in the past, but I think what's different about AI is it's broader, it's deeper, and it's moving faster than previous such technologies. And so in terms of mitigations, I think one is just educating people in order to use AI. There will always be people who are using AI, and helping our workers to adapt faster, I think is an important move. A second move is that we may want government to kind of find a way to level the economic playing field. And this may be a controversial proposal, but something like taxing AI companies like us, we may need to get to things that are
And that's a very interesting message coming from you, who runs an AI company.
You dial the number, navigate the recorded instructions, and if you're lucky, there's a person, a real person on the other end of the line. If you're lucky. But more often than not, you don't get the action you'd hoped for. So is your call important to them, really?
So I'm going to jump in right here. I'm just going to say something real quick. Because now we're going to get into the call center. The call center is typically that entry-level job that even I could get somewhere. I could apply for a job somewhere and not have to look great on paper. Am I tech savvy? Yeah. Do I have experience using technology? Yeah, in a general way. And then they can train the rest, right? Okay. As long as my environment is safe to work in, they might ship out the equipment, whether it be a laptop and a phone or a soft phone connected to the laptop, maybe dual monitors, whatever it is that they say I need, the kit. They give me the kit. I can work at home. I can work at the beach. I can work at Panera Bread. I can work at Starbucks, whatever. That's leaving. That, as we know it, that is leaving. The AI agent or agentic AI is going to replace that first level because the engagement in the systems, the customer or the client or the constituent calling those 800 numbers, those 866 numbers, those 877 numbers, or any type of customer support. Now you can bypass all of that riffraff. Option 3 to go here, and then you talk to this lady for 10 minutes. She want to fake like she's important and know what she's doing, only to tell you that she has to transfer you or give you another number. And then when they do that, you got to explain your whole case again. By the time you get to who you want to talk to, your anxiety, blood pressure, and you're thinking about this company now, it's just gone. You're potentially at your wit's end, especially if it involves billing issues, especially if it involves charges that you're not aware of or you don't agree with, okay? Because here's what happens. It takes seconds to sign up for something. It takes minutes to start using it. And it takes all of that when you done took too much of my money, when you done charged me for a service I didn't agree to, or I'm just struggling right now and I need to cut back on a few of those products. So it's not a good experience. And here comes the agentic age, the age of AI and AI agents. But let's go with this.
David Pogue looks at customer service, its frustrations, and its future.
A call may be recorded or monitored.
Want to know how I spent my Tuesday? Trying to report some fraudulent credit card charges.
I'm calling Global Commercial Card.
Hi. Yes, I'm trying to report some fake charges on my credit card.
I'll connect you with our fraud team.
I see.
Thanks so much for your visit.
Okay. Customer service is a real problem in this country. Just ask literally anyone.
So I've got a tale for your customer service story.
That said, we're sorry. We don't have anybody right now to answer your call. Please call back another time.
AT&T had me on the phone for 6 hours.
The airline gave me the runaround via email. It kept saying it couldn't find our flights.
I said, lady, the technician is standing 2 feet in front of me, and he has the unit in his hand.
So why is customer service so bad?
Many of us know what that is. The reason why I interrupted right there, because that last 45 seconds is why I am pro all the way with AI agents, why I look forward to the agentic agent. I do. And here's why. Here's the situation. That frustration, that what appears to be the runaround, getting stuck in a loop, that we experience when we're the ones calling in, trying to get assistance, speaking to support, being bounced around, transferred, holding on for absolutely nothing, like absolutely nothing. And the human being on the other side, the majority of times, they show no empathy. They are not empathetic at all. So that sentience, sentience, CE, sentience or sentient, which is where they're trying to get a lot of these AI models to become sentient or to display sentience, the act of sentience, right? That's what they're trying to do. What is that? You say, well, Talk, what is that? recognize or be aware of emotions. Because the more that the AI agents or the bots or the robots, whatever you want to call them, the more that they can do that, we'll have that empathy right on the phone. Here's the other thing. Those are legitimate responses the majority of times. Even though we've been waiting on the call, trying to get through, when we finally talk to the human being, they say, hey, look, I apologize, but that particular office is closed. That area is closed. I apologize. Their system must be down because it's ringing busy. Or I'm going to have to transfer you and put you on hold again so you can get to that area. Why? Because they tell you, I cannot see that part of the system. I do not have access to view that part of it. Okay, that's fine. That's where the AI agent shows its ass. Listen to what I'm saying. Virtually, that's where the agentic agent shows its ass. You know why? Because if you call in and you choose the option and the agent is handling it, you know what the AI agent is able to do? Whether it's office hours, 5 o'clock, lunchtime, all of these things that people say they can't get to people or can't get to the information. The AI agent can digitally, through the network, dial into those areas of the system and pull that information, whether it's just to review it, just to read it and bring it back and regurgitate it to you, whether it's just to take that information, different pieces of information, and apply some type of logic control there to give you a more efficient response to what's being seen, whether it's to gather certain things together and verify it for you, the agent can actually do the work. So you say, well, why is it that the agent can do the work, Todd? What do you mean? Why can't the person answering the phone do the work? Because the call center agent at the first level, they're not hired to understand the back end interworkings of the system. Those are other people's. Those are other departments. Those are other extensions. Those are other hours of operation. Those are other time-sensitive built-in protocols and things. That's a different level of training. They didn't get that. So they don't have access. They wouldn't understand it maybe. They wouldn't be able to contextualize it. There's a heap of legitimate reasons why people at certain levels authenticate, that's who they are. Authorization, what they can have access to, is different. Everybody you let in your house can't sleep in your bed. Letting them in your house is authenticating. You know who they are. You're familiar with them. Family member, friend of the family, neighbor, whoever. Authorizing them to access certain part of your apartment or your house, that's giving access. That's the same way with the first level call center. They don't have access to everything. They're not privy to certain information. They're not really seeing the whole social security number. They might be seeing a certain part of it and the rest is masked out. That's why they say, give me the last 4 of your social, because they don't know the first. I'm making that up. I'm just telling you, ideally, that's what's happening. But the agentic agent, the AI agent, they'll be able to get to those areas of the system. Why? Because what's probably going to happen, I'm making this part up, the agent taking the call at the lower level, and then it's not able to provide certain information, it probably has an API or some other web service where in a real quick way, it'll be tokenized, given authority to get to that information with authorization. Everything's audited, everything's logged, and they just need to see it and read it back. Then they might need to get to some other historical information. In other words, it's more easier, not easy in that sense. It just make more sense from a flow, from a workflow, from a systems perspective, that you open and close certain gates and ways and access for the AI agent so that they can actually work for the caller. That's their job. They can go and do that for 10 or 15 minutes. They're not leaving at 5 o'clock. We're going to hear about support being open 24/7, 365 days a year. You're going to hear about companies, they can make as many agents as they want for any number of languages. All it's leaving. That language barrier, calling, and they're in Australia or India or Africa, and now I gotta it's a dialect, it's a language issue. All of that is going to be addressed at the cost of what? People will lose their jobs, obviously. But in terms of providing a better service, streamlining it, and allowing the AI agent to actually work, because it's not easy, I keep saying that. It's more doable, it just makes more sense to give the AI agent access to areas that you wouldn't give the individual because of fraud, lack of training, that's not what they was hired for, all of that other stuff. But I digress, and I'll jump back over here. And, hang on, one more thing. Here it is. Where is it? But Simon Sinek, a guy whose book I read, Start With Why. He has a slightly different take. Yeah, he has a slightly different take. He says, well, it won't be as bad as many think. Let's listen to Simon Sinek.
There's this concept of quiet quitting where people are coming to work and they're just doing the minimum, doing their hours, doing their job, not volunteering or raising their hands or going, and that's it. And it raises the question, is that bad? You know? And I'm a great believer that it's all about expectation management, you know? Like I get asked about Amazon a lot. Like, do I disagree with how Amazon is run? And my answer is always the same, which is they never lied. They didn't tell you it's a magical place to work where it's all kumbaya and we all we all hang out with unicorns every day. It's really amazing. They're very open about it, that it's very, very aggressive and very rough and very competitive. And even the people who love it only last 2 years because they burn out. And so because they don't lie, you know what you're going to get if you go work there. And if you like that kind of culture, then go work there. Mm-hmm. If you don't like that kind of culture, then don't work there. But don't take the job and then say, I didn't know, because you did. Like Apple, people say, well, Steve Jobs used to drive his people really hard. But you ask the people who loved working there, they will tell you, yes, it was hard and there was a lot of pressure, but I did the best work of my life. And I'm glad I worked there because I never would have been able to work to that standard if I didn't work at Apple back in the day, right? So the important thing is that companies are honest about the kinds of cultures that they have, right? It's the lying. It's the, look how everything's kumbaya. And look, no culture is perfect. Even good ones have problems, and even bad ones have advantages, right? But I think it's about managing expectations. And I think it's okay for somebody to say of themselves, look, I'm not a careerist. I am okay with the fact that I will never be an owner or a senior manager. I want to be paid fairly. I want to do decent work. But I want work to fit neatly in my life and not overwhelm it.
There you go. I love that. There's nothing wrong with that. I talk to people sometimes over the years because, I get a little pumped up, a little excited about opportunities, about technology, different things like that. And I talk to people and they're more laissez-faire. They're more laid back. They're like, you know what, Todd? I'm cool with the $57,000 a year I make. And they might be married and they like, look, my wife, she has a nice job. She's all about that. She has a nice career. She's making 6 figures. I'm at half of what she makes, but we're good, and like that. So that's fine for people. You got people that's, they fine with $40,000 a year. They're more happy than somebody making $4 million a year. And they're good with that for their reasons. But if you're not, and if you would like to do more, then in most cases, there's just more to do. So I agree 100% with Simon Sinek because he adds a balance. He's on that other side. Well, okay, it ain't no thing. Now, in terms of you losing your job, that person, they just go get another job. It's not a problem. But let's talk about what jobs the AI is coming for first.
Where we are right now is that if you have a job that is, remote,
doable remotely, which at this point is most laptop jobs, right?
The computers
most white-collar jobs.
Maybe get better at that.
Yeah, it feels really achievable that we're going to be able to get there.
This is very unintuitive because forever technology replaced blue-collar work, but now technology is replacing the bureaucrats, and the blue-collar like plumbers are like, we're fine. But
Yeah,
the annoying lawyer people are like, they're in trouble.
I mean, the thing right now is what we're seeing is that technology is basically eliminating the rote parts of the jobs. Right. You know, so when I used to program, I remember I would, have to write all these like XML configs. And nowadays, you just ask, GPT-4 and it'll write the XML configs for you. But you want to do something really interesting, then, you need to bring your human intelligence to the problem, even if it's just telling the model, how to go about it.
So you're closer to this than 99.999% of people in the world. So I want to ask your intuition, because I've talked to Sam, obviously, who's involved in this. And I think you may even be more technical than him and really close to the research. So, the next 10, 20 years, like what else are you going to, are you just going to be able to do everything people can do in 5 or 10 years? Is this like a total change in all of reality by the 2030s? Are there actually a lot more steps potentially still? Like what's going to happen here?
Yeah, the thing about AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is people call AGI, is that it's very clear to me, and I think it's clear to people who are working in the field, that progress is going to continue to happen. What's hard to predict is when you actually are able to do a particular job. When there's so many different things that are wrapped up in any particular job, that it may turn out that something we didn't even expect was the last thing that needed to be automated. So I think we're going to have a long time.
We may not have like perfectly realistic Westworld robots walking around in like 7 or 8 years.
Robotics, we're probably going to need AI to write that, to figure out how to build robots for us.
But you're going to get, that's the other question is, I don't know what's public or not, so push back on me, but the thing I've heard from various people is you could probably do GPT-5 and 6 and maybe 7 with people, and then at some point you're going to need to get to 8 or 9 or whatever, you're going to need GPT itself to do that. If I was running a research group, I'd already be trying to probably figure out how to get this thing to teach itself in different ways. That's probably there's lots of concepts there, I'd imagine, that you're trying to figure out. Like how far are we away from it teaching itself? And is that a thing you guys are working on that you could say?
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's sort of the open problem that everybody sees right now, is that, the current, as you say, the current GPTs are all just mimicking what humans do. So how do you unlock creativity, right? And if you think about it, it's that same problem we had with Dota or with games, where because you have this structured environment of a game,
it was able to be creative within the structured environment by trying new things. So how do you give it the ability to be creative within the structured environment of reality?
And that we don't know. And I think the interesting thing even now is just how do you build a structure of reality for the agent to play in?
That's interesting. I imagine you already have lots of versions of 3D structures of reality, obviously, for robotics to play in, but I guess it's more complicated to have a structure of like human reality.
I think the most interesting structure we have now is actually the compiler, the interpreter, and being able to write code, run code, see what happens.
Interesting. So that's actually a more dynamic place for them to live, is like learning how to write code and iterating on what happens with code it writes.
Yeah, I actually spent a lot of time at OpenAI thinking about 3D worlds, and ultimately the problem with the 3D world is it's very limited because you have to create everything interesting that's in there.
That's fair.
Right?
There's no. I guess you could create a bunch of like human and emotional actors or something like this for it to interact with, but you're going to create some really dorky robots. They're all just going to be really good coders.
Hey, you know what? You can you can be all the non-dorkiness. Humans can bring the non-dorkiness, well, and
I will not be able to bring that, but normal people will be able to bring that for you. It's almost like you kind of need more human data. Like you need more data about how people just do normal human things and how they're feeling and how they're thinking, right? Because that's what we're missing.
Well, it's unclear. The funny thing is, there's actually a ton of if you just think about the internet, it is so huge. There's so much. And so there is a lot of data out there about how, if you think about.
Okay, they going in too deep. They nerding out because they nerds, they engineers, they're programmers. That's what they're supposed to do. They're having a great conversation about, they nerding out right now. That's not my point. Okay, if I do a nerding out live, we'll play the rest of that. My point is this: how do you get in front of it? What can you do to mitigate your circumstance? If you are that lower level, I like doing customer service work. I like working in the call center. Is this just going to wipe me out? You don't have the degree. You don't look great on paper, but you enjoy what you do. Okay. If that's your situation now, and you potentially have that desire or you aspire to that, then you can embrace a term that still exists for now, just for now, called augmentation. You can augment your particular situation. Augment. If I'm saying it wrong, it's because how I talk, but maybe I can spell it right. AUGMENT. Augment versus replace. Augment versus displace. When I say replace or displace, I'm talking about your position at the company that you are at for the function that you perform. Because think about it. If you say, well, that's okay. If they let me go from here at working for this company, my temp agency or another temp agency will get me an assignment somewhere else at a call center. Here's what I'm saying to you guys. That lower level, first level call center person, it's gonna be a cascading effect. It's gonna be the domino effect. It's not gonna be one company, it's gonna be agentic AI or agent AI, and they're not using human beings for that first level no more. It's gonna be all of them, and it's gonna hit hard. And all of those temp agencies you go to, none of them will have that position available at the current level with the current skill set. But what can you do to mitigate? What can you do to either cushion or bounce from? What can you do to fast forward where you're going to be as the changes come, which you cannot stop? One of the things you can do is become more familiar and more abreast with the different AI tools, with the different tools and initiatives and the rollouts that are being done just in the technical world. You don't have to take a class. You do the same thing you do when you're looking up movie stars, entertainers. You use the same effort. Well, Talk, I'm not sure how to find that stuff you talk about. Use the same effort you use searching for porno when you didn't want nobody to know it and you didn't want to put your credit card number in. If you use that same effort, trust me, you're not going to lose your job. So what you do is you don't be mad at AI. You start looking at videos. You start listening to crazy people like me talking about how AI is going to make a difference for the customer service, the first level of support, whether you at a GoDaddy, a Network Solutions, whether you at a Salesforce or a Microsoft, your car insurance company, Office Depot, a Staples, a Best Buy. What's going to happen? What is that agentic AI I keep hearing about? The other thing that you can do in terms of interviews, you got to get your vernacular up. You got to get your terminology up. You got to be able to come across that screen with that energy and that interest or awareness about how valuable the AI tools are, the agentic tools are, the resources, the way that their environment is going to augment the typical call center rep. You don't want to give it energy that, you know what, I don't know about all of that AI stuff or all that. I don't want to know nothing about that. I've been taking calls and I've been working, as you see on my resume, for 15 years as a customer service rep, and I've been good at my job. That's the wrong message. I'm telling you now, moving forward, that's the wrong message. If you come across sounding like the last slave, if you come across sounding like a companion of Moses when they was at wherever mountain they was at in the movie 10 Commandments, because I ain't read the Bible enough to know what mountain they say they was at. If you sound like him and you just want to use them same 2 tablets that Moses came off that mountain with, and you don't want to use the iPad or touch screen, that's the wrong message. What's happening is employers are going to be more enthusiastic. They're going to be trying to identify people who will embrace the technology of AI, the tools and resources, the potential training. They're going to be more willing to give that person with 2 or 3 years experience with something with call center than the person with 10 years experience in call center work that comes across as if they see no value, they have no interest, they want nothing to do with the innovation and the advent of AI. They're not going to want them because the people that's coming into an environment where they've augmented that service or information to streamline things for the customers or the clients, they're trying to identify them because they can be replaced and we don't have to index how much experience they got because we're training them on the new way that we're doing it. So you having 10 years in something or 15 years in something, it just won't carry as much weight. The example I was giving in the other live was this. If you pride yourself on knowing Microsoft Office, whether it be Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, any of that stuff, and you go on an interview for some company anywhere, and they say, oh, hey, are you familiar with the Office products? And you say, yeah, I've used PowerPoint for 7 years, I've used Microsoft Word for 20 years, and Excel for 15 years. I'm the guy or the woman. That's cool. That's going to look great. But the very next person that they interviewing for the same position, me, let's say me. They say, Todd Williams, are you proficient? Are you good at, how would you rate yourself at the Office suite? Now that guy that just left, he got 15 years in this, 10 years in that, 7 years and all that, right? I'm going to say, look, I only been using Excel for about 3 years. But I'm going to tell you something. That Microsoft Copilot, because Copilot is the AI engine. That's what Copilot is. It's your assistant. It's your person at your company that know all about Excel. That Copilot for Word, it's the one that know all about Word. The Copilot for PowerPoint, it's that power user that know all about PowerPoint. So I'm going to sit there and say, I've been using Excel for 3 years, and I'm so glad that it has something called Copilot. And as I understand it, that's like the AI. That's sort of like the language, the model that's put in there that whenever I run into issues, I go right to Copilot. And it gives me examples, some how-tos and resources, and I can just reprompt it. I can, add context to it. And it'll take me to something else, and with the formulas, everything. And then if I have to reach out to my direct report or one of my peers or one of my coworkers, I can have a more intelligible conversation with what I'm trying to do, what my challenge is or where I'm stuck at, along with Copilot gave me this. And then that seems to empower me more. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear about you been using Word for 50 fucking years. For what? We don't need the person that's been using Microsoft Word for 50 years and Microsoft Excel for 20 years. We need the person that we can sense from their conversation and energy that they see value and that they're interested and excited and have no problem using these AI tools and models to augment. Remember what augment means. It doesn't mean replace or displace. Augment means to improve upon, to make whatever that is better than what it is. So it's to empower. That's what you can do. Another thing you can do, and I'll play the video, learn how to talk tech. Because a lot of people know how to do tech. They've been working with it forever. But just have a conversation with them. Have a conversation with them. You'll surprise yourself. You listen to them, and it sound. If you had to judge people by the way they sound, by what they know, you'll misjudge people. We'll misjudge people, and that's important on interviews. It just is. Example would be this guy. He says it's a way to get in front of. Well, this is what he says, but this is just an example of how important it is to understand how you can talk tech. When somebody says, do you use ChatGPT? Be able to say more than, especially on an interview I'm talking about, to your potential employers, if they ask you, what sort of AI tools do you use? They're going to ask. If you say, well, I use ChatGPT because that's the go-to for everybody, and they say, well, what is ChatGPT? What are you going to say then? Are you going to sound like you at the gas station? What are you going to say when they ask you? Like right now, I'm saying it. What are you going to say then? I'm saying it rhetorically. But what are you going to say then? Because that's where most people, they fall off the cliff. I'll run into somebody and they say, yeah, man, I use ChatGPT. And then when I say, what is it? I'm just asking what it is. That's all I'm doing. I'm just simply saying, what is it? Because they're bringing it up and they're making the point to me that they use it. So I'm just saying, what is it? And they struggle to say anything. They do. They struggle to even tell me what that is. So you want to get familiar with the vernacular. You want to look up the terms, just conceptually. You don't have to become a coder. You don't have to become a programmer. But if somebody was to ask me, they say, well, sir, do you use what AI tools do you use? Why? Because I'm old, so I'm going to face ageism. Because I'm black, so I might face racism. All of that. I'm a man, I might face genderism. All of that. I'm making that up. I'm just giving you examples of what might be real, what people can face. And they say to me, and I say, yeah, I use ChatGPT. And they say, well, what is ChatGPT? And I say, well, as I understand it, ChatGPT, well, it's AI. Whether it's AGI or AI, it's artificial intelligence. It's trying to mimic a human interaction through prompting or something that's synonymous to me as querying. See, that's me talking. I'm actually going to say that. I say, well, I'm familiar with the term query, which is how you ask a system a question, whether it be a database or whatever. You query something. You query a spreadsheet. You query a database. You're digitally asking a question through some electronic medium. And I guess on the other side of that is whatever. ChatGPT is a way to chat back and forth. And as I understand it, it's built off of algorithms and large language models, and they train them so that they can mimic a human, so that they can analyze and score and predict what it should come next based on how it's been trained. I'm all over the place, but I'm giving some sense that at least I have an idea, minus formal training, of what ChatGPT might be, okay? I was looking for this clip, and young professionals are quitting, quiet companies, engineers say. I was trying to find out, this one here.
How to get ahead of 99.
So this guy right here, Sajjad Qaeda, he's an engineer. This guy's a business guy. This guy's smart. He talks about here how to get ahead of 99% of computer science majors. When I play this piece, I want you to understand that I'm not playing this to tell you how to get ahead of 99% of computer science majors. I'm playing this piece to stress a point that he's making to the computer science majors. You got to be able to talk tech. You got to get on that interview, or you got to get in front of your employer, or you got to say to your supervisor, because you're already working. You got to be able to represent and use the terminology, the vernacular in that domain where you can express either interest to be trained or appreciation for the tools you already been toying with, and you like to get more involved, so maybe the company can invest in you. So you will be part of that augmentation. You will be part of that new rollout when they displace and replace others, because they say, okay, we'll keep so-and-so because she or he not only understands it, they get it. They see the value in it. But anyway, the point of this is not for you to become a computer science major. He's stressing the point be able to talk tech in a way that people can understand your excitement, your skill set, or even your interests.
How to get ahead of 99% of computer science majors in 1 year. Now, just to be clear, this isn't going to be a speech of how to land your first internship, how to get your first job, how to break into tech. This is going to be how to take your existing skills and really level up to get to ideally like an elite status, a top 1%. So today we're not going to learn how to dribble a basketball. We're going to take our basketball skills and shoot for the NBA. Sound good with you guys? Good? All right, sweet. And specifically in this speech, I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 different categories. The first part is learning how to talk tech. So back when I was in college.
Just real quick, I am telling you now, I could leave out my apartment right now in this area I'm in. I could go right to a Panera Bread or Starbucks, anywhere where the guys at. And they'll be like, yeah, man, I'm a developer. Yeah, man, I know Python. Yeah, man, I build websites. Now, they will say what they do. And I'm not saying they don't do it. But they will, think about this logic here. They will state what they do proudly, pridefully. Now, either they're thinking nobody's going to ask me anything behind me stating it, or maybe it's just improper for somebody to do so. But when somebody said to me, I typically say, well, what is that? What is it that you do? And then all of a sudden, it's like letting air out of a balloon. How can you be so excited to tell me that you're a developer, that you're a web designer, that you know Python, that you do this in tech? And when I ask you what is it that you do, you fall off a fucking cliff. But that's this guy's point. He's like, look, don't even worry about how good you are in coding. Can you even talk about what you're doing?
Different categories. The first part is learning how to talk tech. So back when I was in college, back when I was majoring in computer science myself, one time this freshman came up to me and she was asking for some help on her computer science assignment. The assignment was, can you write out a function to tell if a number is divisible by 10? If x modulus 10 equals 0, return true, else return false, right? It's pretty basic. But as I was saying these things like the modulus operator or conditionals or ternary or even the words like function, method, the sheer look on her face as I was saying all these tech jargon words, it was crazy. When I was saying words like conditionals, ternaries, modulus. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is, although that's a funny story, that actually happens to most of us on a day-to-day basis on a different level. So although words like ternary, module, functions, classes don't impress us that much, words like machine learning, AI, generative AI, that all sounds super, super impressive. Especially nowadays, people almost use AI as a marketing term. I spent some time in San Francisco last summer, and I swear to God, everyone and their mom had some startup that used AI, whether it was in the medical field, in the law field, and it didn't even have to do with tech. I think there was even this one boba company that had some AI in it, and I was like, what the heck? So everyone is talking AI nowadays. Everyone has something AI written, and it's used as a marketing term. It's used as a way to qualify someone even. I was scrolling on TikTok the other day, and it was a video of someone said, I took one computer science class, and now on my resume is, and then there's a guy saying, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. You know that? You know that TikTok? And all these buzzwords just put on. And although it's super funny to see that nowadays everyone is getting involved in this actually leads us into 2 potential problems. So the first one is you get everything just on the surface level. There's no deep dive understanding into it. In fact, I know people who actually work in this whole AI, ML space that don't even know the differences between machine learning, AI, or generative AI. There are people who are so deep in this field or are working on a startup that has machine learning components in it, but they don't know the difference between like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, or reinforcement learning. So not having a deep understanding and just using these things as like talking points, as surface level things, as just things to add onto your resume, that is a way to get stuck in the majority of the crowd. Like the people who are truly successful, and there are going to be a lot of startups, a lot of businesses, a lot of projects that take on and explode in the next coming decade, they're going to be using these things. And so having a true big understanding of those things is essential. So that's why we need to learn how to talk tech. And another like example that I like to present in order to understand this a little better is, let's just say you're in a baking competition. You're trying to create something, like let's just say cookies, right? You have your chocolate chips, you have your sugar, you have eggs, you have flour. And then comes in a guy who has these exotic ingredients like cocoa beans from South America, pure vanilla from like a different country, and all these gourmet ingredients. You stand no chance in that competition purely by the fact that you don't even understand what he's working with. You don't even understand what he's cooking with. Like, he has things that are so far beyond your understanding that you will never be able to catch up. So by understanding all this tech jargon and understanding the differences between like machine learning AI and generative AI, just simply understanding those things is the first step in leveling the playing field with the top 1%. Because you will never be able to join the top 1% unless you're able to level the playing field with them. So that's what I want to do, really establish our mindset to level the playing field and understanding what everyone's dealing with nowadays, especially with new technologies. For example, a couple of months ago, DeepSeek came out. Did we really understand how it operates? Did we really understand how the reinforcement learning on that model works? Why it's different than models like ChatGPT, for example? Did we really understand it? Those are all the fundamentals. Just taking a deep dive into all these technologies and really understanding all these technical jargons is step one. The second part is gaining meaningful, impactful experience. Experience nowadays, we all think of, it's just getting an internship, getting a job, pretty much what experience is usually defined as. But things are changing quite a bit. Coding projects can be experiences, research labs, experiences. Even volunteering could be experience. Like, you all are here, students at UIUC. I bet there are a bunch of non-technical clubs that could use some of your expertise. Maybe there's a debate club. Maybe there's a business club that needs a website, that needs a dashboard. Maybe there's a local mom and pop shop that needs some help deriving insights from their data, or needs some advice on running a certain campaign to increase their revenue during this time, or maybe during the weekdays they don't have enough revenue, so maybe they need some help identifying that campaign. Maybe there's something that you guys can help out with, just with some simple Python, maybe some simple JavaScript. There's some things that you guys can do. And specifically, what I really want to emphasize is having meaningful experience. I see far too many people nowadays doing projects that are just so surface level, that are almost projects just for the sake of doing projects. Like, it doesn't matter if you're working in machine learning or AI or all these cool technologies, if it's not an impactful, meaningful project. Like, you can create a super cool image classifier that can tell the difference between cherry muffins, blueberry muffins, and chocolate chip muffins. But is that really impactful? Is that really that useful? I mean, maybe to you if you're that into muffins, but for the majority of the world, probably not. Versus someone who creates just a simple website using the basics, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but that website is used in a nonprofit that helps people get medical devices in a third world country. All of a sudden, the impact of that experience far exceeds whatever that cherry image classifier thing that person did just to throw on their resume real quick, which I don't think it even helps your resume that much. So finding solutions to problems rather than doing projects for the sake of doing projects is essential. This is the whole meaningful experience part that I'm talking about. On this point, I just wanted to give a few examples of almost how easy it is to gain meaningful experience nowadays. So a couple of my friends, they notice at their local mosque, donations aren't that seamless. It's pretty hard to get donations because not a lot of people have cash nowadays. They usually do card or Apple Pay. And the credit card processing system at their mosque was just very tedious. It was not that operational. It would cause a lot of lines and just become a huge issue. So one of my friends, he wasn't even a computer science major. He actually majored in industrial engineering, so like little to no technical experience, especially compared to all of us here. He decided to create this app called Nizam, and it basically serves as a mosque donation system in which there's like a screen. It's a very simple UI where you select something, you're able to tap your card, tap your phone, and then go right away. So there's no hold up, and the mosque actually can increase their donation so much and also use the user profile data for whatever they need. And just like that, he created a solution to a problem. And I'm not going to get into metrics, but it's doing really, really well. And it's a very simple app that solves a problem. Another guy, he created this app called Riz GPT. Have you guys heard of it? You wish? For those who don't know, it's basically a ChatGPT wrapper. It uses ChatGPT to analyze screenshots of your text with a significant other and helps you create responses to it. I don't promote the product, but I'm just talking about it as a case study. He was a guy without a technical background, but he used AI to learn how to use AI and created this application, paid 2 influencers a couple of $100, just a few $100, and then immediately put this product out and started generating 5-figure months, month over month. So non-technical backgrounds, solving meaningful, impactful problems, and creating solutions to it. These are the
So I apologize. I had to step away for a moment. You know, this is what I say to guys when they telling me they're in the tech space, right? I say, well, what projects have you worked on? It becomes frustrating to me when somebody tells me that's what they do. Imagine walking up to somebody and say, man, I sell drugs, man. And you say, well, what type of drugs you sell? And they say to you, you mean like Tylenol? You're the drug dealer. You said you sell drugs. And I'm just asking you what type. It's the same way. If you're working entry level, here's what I'm saying to you. If your current job, you consider that entry level, but there's technology involved, you actually have an advantage that you really don't notice there. You may not realize your advantage. Your advantage is you're at the entry level. That's your advantage. There's room for you to grow. You can learn some things. You can work on projects. You can do, like he says, something meaningful, something impactful. You can ask your direct report or somebody in that environment you work in, hey, I would love to assist with this. Do you have something I could work on a couple hours during the day while I'm here to maybe help improve something? You'd be surprised where interests will take you. Not even knowing, just interest. It's like you being interested in someone. Next thing you know, you get their phone number. Next thing you know, they want to tell you where they live at. Next thing you know, they want to invite you out to eat just because you have an interest. It works the same way in the work environment. If you show here's my message because I'm getting ready to wrap it up. There are many things that you will be able to do if you have one of these low-level first-line entry jobs. I'm not talking about you make 6 figures. I'm not talking about you the senior anything. But you're just, you're a call center rep. You're a customer service person. You provide some first-level support. Remember the litmus test. Remember part of the litmus test. If you're not sure whether AI is coming for your job, if you work on something called the keyboard and you're using internet to do your job, and you could do it in the closet, at a restaurant, on the beach, in your house, or in the office, AI is coming in to wipe that position out. Because if it doesn't matter where your body is, that means we don't have to have a body to do it. A system can do it. All right, it's your boy Talk Williams. I got to shut this down.